Week 24. Our scripture this week is from Isaiah, the 55th chapter, and the second verse. It reads, "Why do you spend money on what is not bread, and your labor on what does not satisfy?" This scripture is one of the more pointed verses in all scripture, and I want you to sit with it for a minute. Why do you spend money on what is not bread? Why labor for what does not satisfy? And this is not a rhetorical flourish. This is a genuine indictment of a pattern that God was observing in his people. They were working hard, they were spending real resources, and ending up unsatisfied because what they were chasing was not and was never actually going to meet the hunger underneath it. So I want us to apply that question directly to our businesses because I think it names the exact reason why so many good opportunities do not sell. People are not hungry for your product. They're hungry for what your product and service does for them. And if your marketing and your sales conversations and your offer descriptions are all built around the product instead of the hunger and the need, you are asking people to spend money on what is not bread. That's not a marketing technique problem. That's a clarity problem, and it is solvable. There's good news. So there's a difference between a product and an offer. So, and I want us to really spend some time on this because it's the single most confusion that I see with people trying to start a business and get sales, get people to engage in their opportunities. So let's work with this. A product is what you made. An offer is what it does for the person who buys it. So a product description sounds like this: 12 hours of one-on-one coaching delivered over 6 sessions, including email support between calls. And that's accurate. And it's also completely uninspiring because it describes your process, your method, your delivery. It doesn't describe the outcome. No one wakes up hungry for 12 hours of coaching. They wake up hungry for the specific change that those 12 hours are going to produce. So an offer actually sounds like this: for the founder who is overwhelmed by the legal side of building her business, 6 structured sessions that take you from unprotected and unsure to fully formed, contract ready, and confident that you won't be blindsided by something you didn't see coming. Same service, but an entirely different connection because it speaks to the hunger, not to the hours that they're going to get. Most early stage founders and entrepreneurs lead with the product description because that is what feels honest and concrete to them. And that's good. You know exactly what you are delivering. So you describe the thing that you're delivering. But your potential client does not care about the deliverable in a sense. They care prior to purchasing, they care about their problem. That's what's on their mind. So the bridge between the two is your offer. The bridge between what you are delivering and what they are concerned about, worried about, trying to fix. That is the offer, and delivering that is your job, not theirs. So you have to explain to them that you are fixing their problem. So there are four components to a real offer. An offer that properly constructed has these four things in it. It has a product description, no matter how detailed it's typically has none of them. So this is why founders who lead with product descriptions instead of offers consistently wonder why their marketing isn't landing. The marketing is technically accurate. You've listed all the things that you're doing, but it's emotionally dead. So the first component in a good offer is that you have a specific promise, not a vague aspiration like transform your business, but a concrete statement about what will be true after working with you that is not true for them now. The promise should be specific enough that the person reading it can picture the after. The second component of a good offer is a defined recipient, not everyone who grows their business. That's too broad. It needs to be a specific person in a specific situation. The more precise that you can name who this is for, the more powerfully the right person will recognize themselves in your offer, and the less you will have to waste energy on trying to appeal to everyone, which in practice appeals to no one. So we want to have a specific, defined recipient. The third component of a good offer is a clear process. How does the transformation actually happen? Not the granular hour by hour breakdown, but the logic of your method, the reason your approach produces the promised results. This is what you want to specify. This is where you build credibility. People trust outcomes more than they understand, even at a high level, how you're going to produce that outcome. All right. So you want to have a clear description of your method. And then the fourth thing you want to have is you want to have a meaningful outcome. What does life or business actually look like on the other side of having worked with you, used your services, or used your products? Not a features list, that's different, but you want an actual description of what will be changed. This is the bread. This is what the hunger is that our scripture in Isaiah 55 and 2 is actually asking for. So we want a specific promise, a defined recipient, a clear method, and a meaningful outcome. All of this wrapped up into one message. And every offer that converts well has found a way to communicate all four of these components. Even if you do it briefly, it's all contained in your offer. Every product description that fails to convert is usually missing two or three of these components in it. So we want to address that now. Now, why does this matter more than marketing polish? And I know we're all into marketing these days, but I want to correct a misunderstanding that I see happening a lot with founders and entrepreneurs. When you see that your offer isn't converting, the instinct is to fix the marketing, meaning that they want to get better photography, change the logo, uh, update the website, post more. and or pay for more advertising. And sometimes those things will help. I don't want to say that they don't, but usually if the underlying offer, if the underlying message is still speaking to the details of your services and not to a genuine offer that talks about the transformation, the outcome, and the way the outcome will be brought about, no amount of paid advertising is going to fix that problem. So you cannot market your way out of an unclear offer. You can only obscure it with a lack of clarity. You will temporarily, people will be confused. You might get some hits, but at the end of the day, it won't convert to actual sales because people won't, um, they won't know for sure what they're going to get from you, what's going to change in them having worked with you. They know that they're going to get items of deliverables, but they don't know what's going to make their life changed for the better. So we need to fix that first. So before you invest further in a marketing execution plan, I want you to go back to the offer message itself. Can you articulate the specific promise? Can you name the specific recipient with precision? Yes, this is the work. Can you explain the method in 2 or 3 sentences of what your product and service, how it operates? And can you describe what will be the meaningful, hear me, the meaningful outcome in language that your ideal client would use themselves? Don't talk like you, talk like them. And so you don't want to use language that is meant to be impressive. You want to use language that reaches a person and they can see themselves in what you're offering and can see their lives changing by using what you are offering. All right. So if any of these 4 components are missing, that's the work that you actually need to do. Not in the marketing channel, not being on another platform. No, but the clarity in what you are actually offering needs to be produced. That's our work this week. And also, I want you to understand that this is not just about clarity. On the other side of clarity is covenant, because what you're offering is a covenant responsibility. It's an agreement that you are making with your clients and your customers. So the promise, the transformation in your promise or in your offer has to be the one that you actually deliver. It has to match. Overpromising for the sake of a more compelling marketing message is not simply an ethical shortcut. No, right? We know. I think unfortunately we had just come to expect that you can't believe advertising. But for us, dominionaires and kingdom builders, we have to produce what we promise. So it's actually a breach in our agreements if you're making with your client, the moment that they hand you money, you have to meet the expectation that you set for them. So I watch founders and business people in their effort to make an offer sound more compelling, actually drift into promises that they don't actually have the capacity to actually deliver. And so the transformation that they promise gets bigger and bigger in the marketing copy, than it actually is in what they deliver. And then that becomes a problem. And when that gap between what they promised and what they actually deliver surfaces, and trust me, it always surfaces, it always comes up, the client doesn't just feel disappointed, they feel misled. And that feeling does not stay quiet. It becomes a part of their review. It becomes a part of the way they talk about you. It becomes a request for a refund. And it becomes a warning in their circles because they're going to talk about their experience. So we want to make sure that we give them something positive to talk about. So clarity in your offer protects your client from confusion. And it also protects you legally, which we'll talk about too, because when a client understands exactly what you are promising and what outcome they can reasonably expect, disputes about whether you actually deliver that become less and less because the standard you are measured against was clearly defined from the start rather than left open to whatever the client privately hoped for. So we want to build an offer that's compelling enough to convert. Yes, we are in business to make sales, but we also want it to be honest enough that we can fulfill our offer. So those are not competing goals, all right? They are the same goal done correctly. We want a clear offer and we want to have the ability to fulfill what we promised. Those things should match. All right, so this week we're writing your offer. If you haven't done it, now you really want to spend some time in it, and now we want to make sure it's as clear as possible. So we want to make sure that we're always applying our word to our word. So take what you're currently working on, what your current offer is, or and even if you're in the planning stage, what you're planning to sell, and I want you to write 4 sentences, one for each component that we've talked about. Name the specific promise, define the recipient, and write out what's the clear method that you're going to use and what's going to be the outcome when someone uses that method. Write those 4 sentences today or this week. This is your homework for this week. And then once you have them written down, I want you to read those sentences back to yourself and ask yourself, does this sound like bread? Or does it sound like a features list? Uh, Does it speak to someone's hunger, what they have a burning desire to fix in themselves or for themselves? Or does it speak to a list of things they're going to get? All right. If it still sounds like a product features list, then you're not finished. You have to go back and work on it some more and keep working on it until the person that you are trying to reach would read it and think to themselves, this is exactly what I need. That recognition, when that light bulb goes off for them, that's when you know that you have moved from offering a product list to actually having an offer, from what you made to what it does for the person who is hungry for it. We want to be the bread. All right. So this week in our reflection, you are ask yourself this: when I describe what I sell, am I describing the product or am I describing an offer? And write out how you currently explain what you do. Write it out. Do this exercise. I know a lot of you are using AI, but you have to know this for yourself. All right. And so explain what you do pretend you're talking to a potential client and look in your marketing and on your website. Read it back, read things aloud. And then that way you can see, does this lead with hours and sessions and deliverables, or does it lead with the specific transformation? Even if it's a product, what's going to be the outcome once I use your product? Either way, a product or a service should have an outcome at the end of using it. And so your offer should explain this. And then now the important thing, ask yourself, and many of you, because we're launching our business, now you have to ask yourself, can I fulfill the promise that I have embedded in this offer? Or has the marketing become bigger than what I can actually deliver? So this is a covenant check. This is an integrity of review of yourself. Can I deliver what I'm promising to deliver? And if there's a gap, that's fine. We want to identify gaps so that we can close them. And we always hear, as kingdom kids, as dominionaires, we have to do what we say. And so we want to get that straight this week. Make sure that you spend some time reflecting on this and fixing anything that's off a little bit. We want to be in alignment. So stop selling what you made. You might have made a course, you might have made a digital product, you might have made an actual a good, a consumable good. Sell the outcome. Sell in terms of messaging and amplifying and promoting what's going to be the experience, the outcome from having utilized what you are selling. That's what we want to make sure that we are promoting, because that's going to deliver the sales that we are looking for and we are required to get as a dominionaire. We want to multiply, and we multiply by having an offer that is complete and compelling. So I want to see your four sentences. Put them in the comments. I certainly will read them, and let me know if there's any piece of an offer, any component of the offer that you want some further assistance with. That's what we're here for, because we are launching this business this year and you're going to be successful from the jump. Let's get our offers right. All right. So put that in the comments, and we're going to and make sure you work on this week, because as you see, each week it builds and builds and builds, so we don't want to be behind. Now, as your executive counsel, I have a couple of tips for you, as always, because we want to make sure that we are legally confident in what we are building. And so, excuse me, tip number one for this week is, as we talked about, an offer has four components, and a product description has none of these. A product description does not have the specific promise. It does not have a specified recipient. It does not have the methods, and it does not have the meaningful outcome in it. No, a product description is just list the different items that you're going to give the person when they pay for your service. And so we know that founders tend to lead with product descriptions because they think that sounds like they're giving a lot, that the price is worthwhile. But in actuality, that doesn't tend to convert with sales. So beyond marketing implications, we want to write your offer with its specificity. We want to actually put it in your agreement. Yes, we want to see, uh, you want to also include what the offer was in your agreements, because the contract that mirrors with clarity a well-built offer, it actually does two things. It is compelling to the client or customer, but it's also a good defense against disputes about what was promised. And so if you have what was promised actually included in the agreement, there you can't disputes about what was promised will be easily defended. So we want to have a well-written offer. And then the second tip, the second thing we want to be mindful of is that the transformation you promise must be one that you can actually deliver, of course, and we want to make sure that we're not over promising in our marketing, because that actually creates legal exposure that's beyond client dissatisfaction. All right. We want to be careful with this because we actually have rules and regulations that regulate our marketing claims. And so we don't want to have claims of fraud, right? And so claims that include results, the outcomes, the earning potentials, we always want to be very careful about what we are promising will be the outcome. And so if anything is unsubstantiated or exaggerated, this can actually be called deceptive trade practices. And so even though you didn't mean any malice, you didn't mean any harm, but, being um, embellishing any of your marketing messages can get you into hot water. So we don't want to drift into over promising. So if your marketing makes any claims about a specific result that a client will experience, be prepared to substantiate that claim. Like, well, when you have other people who have had the same outcomes, then you can have a reasonable expectation to have a similar outcome. You need to be able to document that, substantiate that, because you have promised a certain kind of outcome. So clarify in your offer is not just good ethics, but it's actually a good um, uh, legal defense, so that you have already embedded legal protections in the way that you do your marketing. And so we want to implement that now. We want to make that a part of our business practice. All right. So it's a good way of having a well-written offer absolutely helps with sales, increases your sales, but it also helps you protect your business. So we want to do that work this week. All right. So those are my two tips for you this week. Next week, we're going to get a little bit more technical legally, and we're going to talk about the founder's legal mindset and why a prudent person sees danger because they are looking for it, and how we're going to build the habit of legal awareness, legal discernment without needing to become a lawyer, right? But we want to build this practice in the way that we're doing business now. We want to be able to see far and wide. And so we have to have a legal mindset when we're doing that. That's what we'll deal with next week. Looking forward to your comments this week. We are halfway there. Your businesses are launching this year, and we can't wait to see the fruit of your labor. All right, see you next week.